guys? Well, I've decided today's topic is going to be probably multifaceted because I never can keep just one thought in my head, so we're going to go over a bunch of different things, and mostly I'm talking about my process or the lack of, because I really don't have a process. I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. I've told you that before. So normally what I do, and I'll just use an example, is that I'll take a painting and I'll have to have an idea. So I'm like, okay, I want a tree. I'm going to paint a tree. That's what we're going to do, a tree. And then I end up with a tree, or I end up with something totally different, which is not a tree. I end up with the moon. I have the moon on a lot of my paintings. And sometimes people talk about, oh, what's your method? What do you mean by the moon? I mean, I like moons. That's what I mean. It doesn't mean anything overly dramatic, unless it's subconscious, and if it is, then I'm not aware of it. So there's that. But most of all my things have moons, or they're night scenes. I like my night scenes, which are pretty, So there's that. But mostly the blending thing. Like when I started to learn how to paint, I didn't know what I was doing at all. So I ended up just kind of smearing the paint on there. And I was like, oh, there's rules, and there's no rules to painting. That's the beauty of painting, is that it's whatever you decide you want to do with it, which is completely awesome, in my opinion. And so that's kind of the neat thing. You can use your fingers, you can use Q-tips, you can use toothbrushes, anything and anything you can paint with, you can do. And in this time of the coronavirus, we have to be especially cognitive of what we are doing, like here at home, because some people can't leave, I work all the time, so I try to come back and unwind from it. And to do that, it's nice to know I don't have to have rules, which is really great, because there are different ways that I do things. You never know what I'm going to paint, because once again, sometimes I think tree, I want a tree, and then I come up with this, which is not a tree. This, by the way, is a painting called The Moon. Isn't that very telling, isn't it? I think it's cool. But that's my thing. But then, you just have different processes. You might decide you want a tree, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, that doesn't look like a tree. I'm going to paint something else. And then you end up. And I've noticed, like, you see all these paintings behind me. They're all from different times that have done things, but the most recent ones are here. But I've, again, during this pandemic, I've not been able just to go to the store and get canvases anytime I want. So I've decided to go backwards even further, a couple of years ago, and paint over old paintings, which is super fun for me because I didn't like them anyway. So there was that. So what I use for that is the, here, let me show you. The acrylic gesso? I don't know how to pronounce it. The acrylic gesso. I hope that's turned accurately. But anyway, it's just gesso. Now, this is an old jar of it. You'll see the inside of it. It's kind of milky. It looks like milk. This is very thin because it's also very strong smelling. Don't inhale it. Though it might make interesting paintings. But yeah, you just do that. And you paint over your canvas or your board. You see it's still wet. Oops. I thought it would dry by now. But you can tell I have my underpainting, which is what I painted before. And don't be frightened. Don't go, oh no, it's seeping through. You can use that, what they call that, an underpainting, as your background if you wanted to. I have it darker in the center and lighter on the outsides, but I didn't intend for that, which is great. Bob Ross used to say happy accidents, right? So, and you can't say Bob Ross is wrong. He knew everything about painting. So that was fun times for him. But that's the thing. You end up with this. This thing is still really wet. Ew. But, I guess maybe this would be a good time in this ADHD tutorial of painting. We should talk about the supplies you'll need to paint. And I know some of you guys are new artists and you don't really know what all you might need. And let me just tell you, you don't need a whole lot. Water, brushes, and it doesn't matter so much. I mean, some artists, like professional artists, are going to tell you, oh, you must have sable-haired from the European skunkweed from the European bear of the woods in southern Russia. You must have the hairs from it. No, you don't need all that just to paint a picture that you want to paint for the first time. Now, as you get a little bit more advanced, people do get a little fancy with their brushes, but I'm not that person. So, what I do is I ended up getting just your basic brushes. These are old brushes that I came across. I can't even tell you where I got these. This is called a fan brush. So there. It does trees and does pretty little things. Here, I'll show you with this one. See those trees right there? I don't know if you can see it. It's dark. When I get my new studio, we can really get some good lighting. But those are what those do. You just take the brush. This doesn't have any paint on it, so I don't mess it up. But you'll just go up. Can you see? You go up. And then just kind of brush it upwards. And it'll make like pine tree looking things. It's really neat. And you can do little flower petals. Just mess around with it. See what it does. It's really cool. And then you got these. These do little flower petals. I don't know what it's called. It's got little, this one's bent and all jacked up. And then you got your flat brush, which does really good ribbons and stuff. You can put like white paint on that edge and like a darker color on that side. And it'll make like a ribbon. It's really pretty. It does really cool. And then you have that one. This one is probably an old flat brush. Not that one. Lord. This one is probably an old flat brush that is no longer flat. But I use that one. See how I show you the roughly edges to it there. It's got like a rough kind of, I just stab the canvas with it. I just like, and it makes bushes and clouds. But if you take like your clouds, if you're making your clouds, go from dark to light, and you can add a little water and it blends it out. But you got to work fast if you're working with acrylic because it dries so fast. Because before you know it, it's stuck. You have to go over it. That's a pain. But it's not a terrible thing. It can be fixed. So that's really the cool thing. My process is not really all that dramatic. In fact, it's probably not right compared to other artists who have processes, I would imagine. You know, usually, you know, once again, the things you'll need brushes, water. I use old, you know, coffee cans that you use for coffee cans after I drink the coffee, right? I use canvases. I paint on anything. I paint on pieces of metal, wood. You can paint on anything. Wood, you'll have to prime first using that white primer. You'll just paint over it because otherwise your paint's going to soak into something and you're going to lose that definition. You're going to see the grain of the wood. You're going to see the grain of the canvas. And some artists don't like that. Some artists do though. So just play around. Play with it until you see how you like it. I have a few friends of mine that are artists and I have drawn such inspiration from them. Jessica Goodson, who owns All About Art on Main Street. My friend Bowen Klein, who lives in Detroit, Michigan. He's incredible. You need to look these people up. Look up All About Art. Go to her. You know, play with her art. Play with her art stuff. She likes it. Yeah, just go. There's nothing wrong with trying about it. And look out for, you know, Bowen Klein. He's got some great stuff. There's Haroni in New Orleans, which is super famous, and I was all about fangirling over meeting him. He's a French artist. I was like, how you doing? Oh my God. But then he was totally cool, even with my weird self. And so I just draw inspiration from everything. I really don't have like anything that I sit there and go, I'm gonna paint about my emotions. I feel bad today, so I'm gonna paint a frown. You know, a dying clown. No, we're not gonna do that. I've got a few things. I tried to do that a little bit, and the only thing that I really did one time that I really, really enjoyed was when I lost a very sweet little old lady with who I took care of. And so I loved her. And she is such a unique person. She was very, very special to me. And so I had promised her, here's my story. I had promised her that I would paint her some flowers that she had gotten for Christmas or a birthday or some gift that she got from her family, who very seldom came and visited her. They would come sometimes, but not very often. And these flowers were beautiful. They were beautiful pink flowers, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. And she asked me if I would paint her a painting of them. And I said that I would. And of course, it takes time to paint. I can't just come home and paint like, you know, like I'm a machine. I'm not a machine. So, and I was like, man, I gotta wait for the right moment. Well, she sickened and she passed and she went on to heaven. And then the moment struck me that I needed to paint for her. And then the other ladies that I have lost and other people that I have cared for that have passed struck me in my heart. Like, I was like, I've got to paint. And so one day I sat down and I painted. And I'll show you the painting. That's this one. It does